How to cure your trypophobia. Hello, I'm Jeffrey Meltzer, a licensed therapist, and by the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of how anyone can work towards curing their trypophobia. Please note that these techniques should be practiced under the guidance of a licensed clinician. Let's dive in. So, what is trypophobia? Trypophobia is an intense fear or disgust towards a cluster of holes. For some, it is so debilitating that it prevents them from engaging in certain activities or even looking at specific objects. Please note that I won't include any trypophobia-related visuals because I understand how triggering they can be. If you don't struggle with trypophobia, I strongly advise against researching it online as the internet is full of potentially distressing images. Okay, so how do we cure our trypophobia? I'm going to cover two methods. The first is the traditional approach, which is often effective. The second is more powerful, but it carries some risks, and I'll explain those risks when we get there. Method number one, traditional exposure therapy. For most phobias, exposure therapy is the gold standard, but it must be done correctly to avoid making the condition worse. With trypophobia, the issue is less about fear and more about disgust. Unlike a fear of spiders or snakes where the amygdala, the brain's fear center, is highly active, the trypophobia primarily activates areas of the brain associated with disgust. These brain regions include the insular cortex, basal ganglia, orbitofrontal cortex, anterior cingulate cortex, and sometimes the amygdala as well. This means that we're going to create a disgust anxiety ladder to address the specific emotional response tied to trypophobia. Here is how it works. Find images that range from mildly uncomfortable to extremely triggering, assigning percentages to each image's level of disgust. For example, pick an image that produces 20% disgust for a mild reaction, 40% disgust for moderate discomfort, and so on up to 100% of extreme disgust. Examples might include patterns that slightly bother you at the lower end and highly triggering images at the top. Start small. Begin with the least triggering image, such as one that produces 20% disgust. Sit with the image and learn to tolerate it. Sit with the image and allow yourself to feel the disgust while practicing slow, deep breathing. And don't escape during peak disgust. Leaving during peak discomfort reinforces the belief that the image is unbearable. Stay until the feeling of disgust diminishes significantly. This helps your brain learn that the image isn't as threatening as it initially seemed. And then you want to progress gradually. Work your way up the ladder, moving to more triggering images only after you've desensitized yourself to the lower levels. This method is more likely to work if your trypophobia is associated with fear or has fear as part of it. But the next one is going to be more helpful if it is associated with disgust. After using this method, you'll notice that even higher level triggers don't elicit the same intense disgust. While you may never like these images, they'll stop causing physical unease. Method number two, Pavlovian conditioning. If traditional exposure therapy doesn't work, this advanced technique can be incredibly effective, though it carries some risks. This method is based on Pavlov's experiments, where a dog associated the sound of a bell with food and began salivating at the sound alone. We'll use a similar concept, but pair trypophobia triggers with something positive. Choose something extremely enjoyable, like your favorite ice cream, a delicious snack, or even a pleasant scent while engaging in exposure. Indulge in this positive experience while you're going up the ladder. Again, you want to start at the bottom of the ladder. As with traditional exposure, begin with images at the lower end of the disgust ladder. The positive stimulus must overpower the disgust you feel. For instance, the pleasure of eating ice cream should eclipse the discomfort of viewing the image. If the disgust overpowers the positive stimulus, you risk associating the pleasant experience with the trypophobia trigger. This is why it's critical to start small. Over time, your brain begins to associate the images with positive feelings rather than disgust, effectively neutralizing the trypophobia response. This method is probably a better fit if your trypophobia is rooted in disgust, as it shifts your brain's perspective by pairing triggers with something enjoyable. Both of these methods require patience and consistency. Always start small and progress gradually. If you're considering the second method, use it as a last resort and proceed with caution to avoid unintended associations. Curing trypophobia is a journey, but it is possible with the right approach and persistence. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.